Hey, welcome to the Node tooling meeting.
Yay.
March 19th. So yeah, we have just a short agenda, it looks like today. First on the agenda is recursive copy, which I don't have any update on. I've not worked on that in the last couple of weeks. Also just looking at the issue right now. Someone had pinged one of the other maintainers of FS Extra, and I don't see any follow-up there. So we might have to reach out. But yeah, I don't really have any significant updates on that one. Oh no, and then the next two things are for Ben, and he's not here yet.
And also the argument parsing work, if we jump to that one, I haven't done anything. I plan to set aside a couple hours today, and then I got a ton of like fire drills, and I need this yesterday, and a bunch of things that just came up.
All right, great meeting, everyone. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe we should talk about the argument parsing because Ben isn't here to talk about his two things.
Yeah, we can talk about that, and we can also maybe talk about, I think at one point we had the idea, and I think we've lost it on the agenda, to share a bit of the roadmap that we have with externally with like community. I feel like we had an issue. We had put together maybe even like a fun retro board even, I think at some point to like, yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about doing like a meeting to kind of get ideas from other people and sort of put that together into a roadmap. But then I think we kind of decided, like we actually have some decent projects on the go right now, like argument parsing and the recursive copy and a couple of those things. So I think we kind of just decided like, hey, we actually kind of have a roadmap already. We're making good progress on these things. Let's just work on them. Yeah, I don't know if we really documented that anywhere.
Just drop the link to the time zone or the time, what am I trying to say? The time of the meeting issue.
Scheduled.
Also, I was going to add the agenda label, but I don't have access. I'm not able to.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That makes two of us.
Oh, yeah? Neither you, Darcy?
No, I can. Oh, and so can Roy. I don't know why that is, but all right.
Probably just a matter of asking for.
Oh yeah, maybe you guys aren't members of the team, like officially in GitHub, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me look.
I'm not sure how to fix that though.
Joe's got all the powers over there, I'm sure.
Oh, nice.
I don't have the powers. I'm just able to figure out where to look. That's the members.
Yeah, because I think this got set up like 2 years ago, and then probably
maybe before.
Yeah.
Oh, I even requested to join this team. I see a cancel pending request button. I don't know who manages this. Oh, looks like Chris Hiller is a maintainer. So maybe we should create an issue to sort that out, sort out the members list.
Sort out the members list and maybe make someone other than Chris, like the admin or maintainer or whatever, since he's hasn't been around for a while. Yeah, okay. Good.
Good to do.
I'll add that to the notes here.
Yeah, and I had one other thing that was also off topic that we could potentially chat while we're waiting for Ben.
Sure.
We're good. Okay. The other thing I was going to ask, and Joe might have insight on this. So like that one community piece that I was wondering where we landed on, and it's good to hear, okay, we've got enough on our plate. We have a good product roadmap, I guess. Was the Collab Summit, if there's a Collab Summit happening with OpenJS World, I'm not sure if there is one, and that's a question I had, and just thinking in the future, us getting together to block out time to do work or to talk about things. I know we have these sort of bi-weekly calls, but it tends to be around that time of year when we have that conference that we try to make some substantial headway. So wondering if that's happening this year for the conference, and or if we want to plan something or a session for ourselves to get together.
That is a great question. And I'm a part of the OpenJS program committee, and I don't think we've talked about, unfortunately, I don't think we've talked about Collab Summit stuff at all. And it's probably something that should be,
Yeah,
figured out.
Yeah.
I saw an issue from Michael Dawson asking about it in one of the OpenJS Foundation repos. Like, and it has no
So I asked him to.
activity.
About
Yeah,
it. That's it.
right. Yeah, there's no answer, no nothing, right? So, you know what I think would be super fun? I don't know where is the place to propose that though. But like, as soon as North America is open, we could try to organize something around the East Coast or somewhere, right?
Let me ask you before we go on to that, because I think it's a great idea. You said Michael had made an issue in the OpenJS.
Yeah, I can try to find it. I think it might still have it in my notifications here. Give me a minute.
Oh, it's in like maybe Summit, huh?
Yeah, this came up in the Next 10 call that I had, I think, earlier this week or last week, that I was noting with Michael was there as well, asking about it. So
yeah, and I see it's on the CPC agenda. I actually missed the last CPC meeting, so I'm trying to quickly go through and look at the notes.
Here, yeah, I found it. Just drop it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, like my guess there also was like, I know last year, which was the first fully virtual Collab Summit, I know some of the feedback was that it would, especially as somebody that ran a session, it was definitely tough to delineate how that was different than sort of what we do here each week, and how to make it special in some way and try to block out time. I know personally I wasn't able to really be as focused since really I didn't block out time, and I think a lot of other folks were the same, where they weren't able to sort of like disconnect from work and were constantly sort of like, not really 100% focused in sort of the sessions. It was kind of hard to like jump in and out of rooms, and so anyway, so that might be a reason maybe not to have it as an official Collab Summit, but maybe around that time we could schedule something ourselves, even if there's not something official going on, that just a working session, like a working call. Or
yeah, so let me actually notes from most recent CPC meeting.
Yeah, I like that idea too, especially because hopefully the stuff that we're working on now, like around argument parsing and recursive copy and some of the other stuff, hopefully we're landing that sometime around mid-year. So that does seem like a good idea. That's maybe a more appropriate time for that, like roadmap, what's next kind of a session.
So I added the notes to that issue that was created in the Summit repo. And I think this, the consensus is like what you were saying, Darcy. So I'll read it here. Online Collab Summit was not as useful. Doing it along with the conference was also not as useful since it was online. If we have to do it online, delaying it would be preferred. Didn't feel much different from working groups. Consensus is let's not push to do an event alongside OpenJS World event. Action is file an issue to take volunteers for planning something else in the fall.
That sounds,
makes no sense.
Yeah, pretty much what we talk about.
Yeah. But and maybe in the fall is in person or something. Okay.
That would be great. Yeah, I think we do have a group within the OpenJS Foundation to handle the summit, right? We still have it.
Well, there's a repo, and I think that people volunteered in the past. I think some of the people that volunteered in the past, I don't think are as active, but some of them are. And I think that the foundation, would certainly support the effort, however, they could. But I think, I would imagine the expectation would be that it would be sort of community driven, as it has been essentially in the past. But yeah, they would probably help.
Yeah, I know it was tough to organize last year, just time zones and stuff, because not everybody's getting in the same place. So
Yeah.
managing that also was super tough. I remember trying to get all the schedules and stuff organized.
Yeah,
so,
and the platform was less than ideal, and yeah, there was a few things that were not great.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. Like, I'm still interested in maybe us then, doesn't have to even be around that time, but setting up maybe a session like to kick some of this stuff off. Like you said, maybe if we have it blocked out as a meeting and there's other folks like everybody on it. It sounded like I missed one of those types of sessions earlier, like last week. I think you all got together to talk about or work through actually backporting.
Yeah,
the backport session.
I was going to mention that one. Like, I think maybe just try to schedule this out of band meetings like the one from last week. Like, it's very helpful. Like, I know like this was really deep dive, very technical, like, and very specific niche kind of thing. But I think that's very helpful to get together. Like, so we managed to land one of the band's PR. Now we're hitting a roadblock with CI. We're having some problems there yet to debug. So maybe we will try to schedule another session just to try to pick each other's brain and see if we can move forward with the backporting. But yeah, I think that might be a very helpful way to go around, at least while we're still online, right? Like while we're still just in this format.
Yep.
I find those useful in general. Like when I was finishing up the most recent like RimRaf related work, I think Ben and I just got on a call like on a Saturday or something for a couple hours and just worked through some of the final stuff. It was just quicker to do it that way than going back and forth. And yeah, I found that really helpful. It's a good way to, like, I know we're all busy and stuff too, right? So it's a good way to kind of like force ourselves to sit down and, commit an hour and get some work done on stuff. So yeah, I thought that was useful. I am definitely in favor of doing more of that.
Yeah, as long as it's in the calendar. Roy knows this. I live and die by my calendar. If I agree to an event, or if I agree to like a meeting, then like there's a high, like that's the highest % chance I'll actually block out the time and actually be there. And yeah, that's the best way to, I think, to get work done, unfortunately.
I know what you mean. Okay. I think
Let me
added those couple things to the notes. Anything else we want to talk about while we're waiting for Ben? 5 minutes.
Yeah. I'll bring up something. I don't know. Just to gauge interest and curiosity. A couple of conversations have come together between Tierney, myself, Ethan Arrowwood, and Ben Halverson related to docs and related to like moving, migrating the docs to a slightly different format, I think, or at least like kind of how they're annotated and such, and using Electron's like doc parser to, there's Ben, to make the docs better and maybe change some things about the docs. So, I know it's sort of tooling related, but sort of not really. But I thought I would mention it's something that we've started talking about.
Is that the TypeScripts? I know TypeScript definitions. Yeah,
it's related. Yeah. Trying to find the conversation to see if there's any, links or anything.
Do you mean like listing some of the types in the docs?
Like, I think being able to parse the docs and pull out types and also pull out like the annotations and be able to build the docs into like a docs website, or sub website, whatever part of a website. I'm still kind of getting my head around it. I think this is related. Let me click on it too and see. Yeah, this is the block parser. Well, maybe this isn't too related. I mean, in terms of informing the conversation. Anyway, I'll get more context and can mention it next time with more clarity. But I'm not even sure if anybody'd be interested, but I thought I'd mention it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I think that if I understand correctly, we could like parse some of the node types out of the docs and the code, right? Which I know that's maintained separately, the node types for TypeScript. I realized we forgot about that when we added the new RM command, and I went to go add it, but someone had done it already. So someone is maintaining them and kind of porting things over, but yeah, I don't know how that process works or how up to date they are.
Yeah, I think the thinking is that this is more code from docs rather than like JS doc, which is docs from code. And like I think pulling things out into some sort of AST, and I think even like generating JSON related to the docs. Regardless, I'll get more up to speed and kind of bring it back to the group.
Okay, so Ben, we were kind of killing time. We were waiting for you.
You're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I just had a work thing come up, so
yeah,
it is now started
out. So I guess the next thing on the agenda is the better way to detect a process is exiting.
I have not done any work on this. I could put my hand up. I'd rather work on recursive copy first if you were thinking you'd like someone to pair with on that, Ian. I
would like that. Actually, just before you got here, we were talking about how the meeting last week where you guys were working on backporting the source map stuff was useful and is like maybe a good way. I mentioned how when we were finishing up the rimwrap stuff, Ben, you and I like paired for a couple hours there. And it's just a lot quicker than going back and forth and stuff. So yeah, we were kind of saying we all kind of like that idea and maybe we should try and do that kind of thing more regularly. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in pairing up on that.
Cool. So I think my note for a better way to exit, unless someone else ends up taking it on, I think that I probably won't have the bandwidth until we do recursive copy then, because I pretty much can only take on one thing at once right now. My amount of spare time.
Okay. And then I guess after that is source map support. So probably have a short update on that, right?
Yeah, we managed to backport one of the PRs. Now we have CI/CD building with failing with a memory leak issue, which is really weird because the mainline branch doesn't have a memory issue, and Node 14 before landing this patch doesn't have a memory issue. So it does seem like this patch is somehow triggering a memory issue, even though it already lives on the mainline branch and is not triggering a memory issue. So my hypothesis, which I have not tested yet, is that maybe my moving to weak maps actually addressed something that was triggering the memory leak detection. Is that what Async does, right? I think it basically detects if you've gone outside of a known like address space or something, right? Like that you shouldn't have gone outside of. Kind of like an electric fence kind of deal. Who's here does C programming? Does anyone do C programming here? I'm pretty sure it's identifying like a bug where you've basically written outside of an expected memory address, which I'm not even writing C in the code I'm writing, so it's a little confusing. Like it seems like something that'd be more likely and like a pointer overflow or something, I think would trigger it. Anyways, this is a long explanation of it's actually a pain in the neck to backport, and my plan is to try backporting weak map patch first to see if that passes the memory issue, and then try to land the one that I think maybe would work with weak map second. So switch the order of landing, and just on a hunch, because that's the only thing I can think of that might have corrected the memory issue on the main branch. Basically what we were doing before is kind of interesting historically. Basically, we were using, I was asked when I implemented the source map support to not use an object for tracking the source maps, because you can delete from require cache. So there was a concern that in some types of programs, like maybe someone's repeatedly deleting from require cache in tests, you could actually have the source map cache start to grow unbounded, like a memory leak. So I was asked to implement it using a weak map. But the problem is that in an exceptional case of your program, it never actually adds the module into the require cache, so there was nothing to key the weak map on. So I couldn't do source maps. I couldn't do source maps if an exception was happening. But my clever workaround was to key the source maps on the error object itself. But the error object itself might garbage collect before you actually get to the stack traces. So that to me sounds like an idea I had that was maybe too clever, that maybe is triggering a memory leak issue. So which I fix when I move to weak map. So I'm kind of like, fingers crossed. I hope that's the issue.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a plan then.
Last question for you, Rui. How do you actually land the backport PR? Because I've done everything now except for landing it. Do you just like manually push it or something, or?
Yeah, it's just a matter of cherry picking. I think we do cherry pick everything into the release branch, but the only point is that I think the staging branch is usually just the release team folks that play on it, just because they might be cutting a release, right? Like okay. Yeah, I think but I might be wrong. It might be fine for any collaborator to land things there, but it's basically the same thing as landing a master. So.
Okay. And the other thing is unfortunately the backporting to 14 has been a pain, but I did remove the experimental language from the command line last week too, like I said I would. So that patch has landed too. So I guess the only concern right now is that I can't figure out this memory leak, and then I'm like, I guess I run a Docker container and see if I can reproduce it in a Docker container maybe. Like, I don't know. It doesn't happen locally. So I get different memory leaks locally, so I just don't trust this test asyn thing, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, it's the one in GitHub Actions, right?
Yeah. I also don't want to like shove a memory leak over the finish line to node 14 accidentally, right? Like,
no,
it seems like a pretty important thing to not do. So I don't know.
Oh, by the way, we were discussing last week on the release group. I think the next minor release for node 14 is coming up soon. So okay. Probably, yeah, I think it might be a good idea to try and speed up. But I mean, also like it's definitely how time we actually have to work on this. But like, if we can prioritize, I think it's a good idea.
I've got a pretty mellow weekend, so I might spend some open source time on the weekend, just try to get a Docker container running or something. The frustrating thing is that I don't think GitHub Actions actually publishes their Docker container they use for actions. So like, I'll have to find a container that's similar to it, I suppose. Like I think I can at least know what Linux it's on.
Maybe Darcy can find it. Maybe we can ask Jason.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Forgot you've all worked for GitHub for a second. Sorry.
I'm pretty sure it just runs Ubuntu, or I think you can specify. Maybe you have.
I've seen the list. I've seen the list. I don't think it's public by any means, but yeah.
It must have a ton of build tools built into it, because like to get Node up and running, you don't install any build tools, and you can like run make right away. So It's got. I think there's an open source project that lets you emulate actions.
There is, yeah. I'm not sure how closely its containers match, but I have seen that project.
I was thinking of starting there if GitHubs are proprietary. Or like maybe Roy could, well, this feels like maybe it's not high enough priority maybe to take a huge amount of time out of your workday, Roy. I was going to say you could, like, you or Darcy could maybe run the container yourselves, like get out a work environment and see if it happens to you. But I can try to reproduce it first, just Ubuntu.
You could try it in code spaces. I don't know if that would maybe be a similar environment.
Code spaces, is that like a GitHub container too? Or like a GitHub managed thing?
Yeah, like I wonder if that would give you something similar. It's easy enough. You just like click a button and spin it up, I think.
Cool. Feature request for GitHub Actions, publicly available container that looks like the GitHub Actions for when these environments happen, when these problems happen, yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll dig into that. What's that, Darcy?
I said, I'm not sure who you can ask to, you know.
This is one of the first times I've had to really dig in deep like this, just because it doesn't seem to be happening locally.
What is the other? You mentioned you have another one that you think might unblock the issue, Ben? Like, do you already open the pull request? Or?
Yeah, well, it's an old pull request, and it's just my hypothesis is why is the main branch not failing? And I'm kind of thinking maybe the synthesis of these two together might be actually correcting the memory leak, is my thought. Let me find it.
Yeah, maybe if you want to open another backport PR.
Yeah, we can at least see if that one throws exceptions too, right?
Yeah.
My first backporting experience is going poorly.
Oh, the first one was fine. The first? Yeah.
Second one is going poorly.
Second one is going bad.
Here we are. Pasting it. This is actually a really cool thing that lives in the Node code base too now. It's 35915 is the PR. And basically it's this new thing that you can recently do in JavaScript where you can have something that's both a weak map and iterable. So you can actually like iterate over all the keys in it, but those keys will disappear as soon as the object doesn't exist anymore. So it's a really nice construct. It's good for like caches that you don't want to hold a reference to an object, basically. So.
Yeah, I've used weak maps actually a few times in those situations. I didn't realize they weren't iterable though.
You can't get the keys on like a traditional weak map.
Interesting.
Or like the key names, at least.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I went way down probably went down more of a rabbit hole there than we needed to. Argument parsing, everyone's favorite feature.
Yeah, I don't think we have a ton of other like agenda stuff today, so
yeah.
Good. Yeah, any argument parsing updates?
I have no update. I was going to work on it today, and then I had a bunch of shit thrown on my plate, so I didn't get any work done on it. But soon I'll get something, and then if anybody wants to hack on it too, we can. I'll get it, up into the PKG.js repo and get start building on it.
The idea was the next step was like polyfill, right? Like let's make an implementation. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think in my Twitter feed I saw someone recently published a polyfill for another new Node feature everyone's super excited about, and I'm completely blanking on what it was, but I will go through my Twitter feed and try to remember what it was, because maybe we can copy the approach they used.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, just those kinds of things in like a similar manner.
Hopefully I liked it. Let's see here. I did like it. I'm smart. Okay. Here it is. I thought that was going to be the worst non sequitur that's ever happened in a meeting, but it's actually So.
Oh, and it's James. What's he got here?
Oh, this is related to the new async timers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I didn't realize that is a great feature. It's cool that someone made a polyfill for it.
Looks like he just threw it up on a personal account though. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Whatever. Cool. I will definitely take a look at this.
Yeah, even just getting like a starting point on that, get that up, and then we can all kind of like pitch in working on it.
Yeah.
Because I'd really like to test that out. I'm trying to parse command line arguments in a Slack command. And I think this would be a great use case for this arg parser. I basically just have a string that I want to pass to it and get, you know.
Yeah. Cool. All right, I will let you all know where, once I get something going here.
Ooh, do we need to buy? Oh, never mind. That's the last agenda item. I'm moving forward too fast here. Yeah, I'm super excited for that, Joe. I will play with it too. I'm trying to think. Do you know where I would use it almost immediately would be some of our code samples, maybe. I try to look for some of our code samples that have really weird command line custom parsing logic and maybe swap in the polyfill since we'll be able to know that we can have it in the actual code base eventually.
Is there a way that we could, I think before, Ben, you said we might be able to steal a bunch of the 3,000 some odd tests that you have written for like Yargs. Is there a way that we can like pull some of those out and like plop them in here like as the test suite?
It might be worth just using them as inspiration for like edge cases. Like there's tons of edge cases like, I don't know, Unicode characters. I don't know. You could try to run it again. So I think there's just the test suite will probably fail because we're missing like it's a pretty different API, right? We could try to build. Do you know what a more interesting thing to do might be is try to use, because you've built it in such a way that you think it can be extended on to build another command line argument parser on top of. Maybe I could try to do like a Yargs parser flavor on top of it by extending on it, and we could try running that against the test suite. That might be interesting. And that would see how it could show us how extensible your idea is too of like populating the multiple keys. And yeah, I guess I'm saying yes, but I think we need to build like a little shim layer on top of it probably.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But I think that'd be a really good exercise to do anyways.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Cool.
Write that down. I'll write that down. I will take on that work as something I do to help test.
Just for my own record, is Yargs now all in TypeScript?
It is.
Okay. I'll leave that task to you then.
What task is being left to me?
The shim. I was gonna say I could help out because I know I did a little bit of work kind of like in playing around with like what it would mean to build almost like kind of aliases, optional like fallbacks, bring your own validation type thing. So I had a little code sample as well, like to kind of like shim it and make it more like a more verbose like implementation with like defaults and options and descriptions and all this kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know if I have time to dive into TypeScript repo. So.
I was kind of thinking we could just add it to the polyfill repo you write. Like we could have it as like a little example. Like example, here's Yargs parser being done with this polyfill, and
then we could just pull in then the test suite. Then that's would be amazing.
Yeah. Or like some subset of the part, because there's stuff that the Yargs parser does. We probably can just drop on the floor, like object notation, loading config files, it does way too many things. I can't wait to replace it with Node. It's gonna be great. Cool. I'm excited about this. Sounds amazing.
Cool. Yeah, we had jumped around. Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, this is like a total non sequitur. I was actually going to mention it earlier when we were talking about polyfills. And then it reminded me of when we first started working on RimRaf and adding new modules to Node, like top level modules was a no-go. So I don't know if this seems vaguely tooling related. I don't know if you guys saw there's a new like Node prefix that you can use for require now. So like instead of like require FS, yeah, there we go. Darcy put it in the comments. Instead of require FS, you can say require node:/FS, which actually kind of opens the door to being able to define some more top level modules without having to get like the name on NPM. So for example, like the argument parser, I know we were going to put it in like util, which still maybe is where it belongs, but we could in theory make like an argparse module. You just have to import it with that syntax.
Oh, interesting. But does it live somewhere different in the, like, is it an actual package that is built with Node, or what's different about the Node : namespace versus pulling in from argparse?
I think the namespace is just like built into Node, telling it that like this is an internal module, like don't import it from Node modules. It's like a built-in one.
Gotcha. I understand. Yeah. So we're just less likely to get like an injection attack or something because you actually include FS vulnerable instead of FS or something. Yeah.
Right. And also we were kind of stuck before where like we couldn't really add new top level like internal packages, because if the name existed on NPM, then you couldn't really use it.
Oh, that's a really fair point. Yeah.
That's what came up with RimRaf, right? Originally we were going to put it in like shutil or whatever, and then someone pointed out like that name's actually already used on NPM. So anyways, I saw this the other day and thought it was interesting.
I think that's a good idea. I also think it might eliminate some FUD around the gradual growth of there being more standard modules, because it doesn't feel like they're all leaking. Like it just feels slightly more contained, and there's like newer modules are in that namespace. I like that idea.
Yeah, instead of just like cramming everything into util or something, we can actually start to make some better top level modules.
I'm gonna write that down as a note on.
I think it's already implemented with the import syntax, and then the new PR is to add it to the require syntax as well.
Nice. I just consider using Node namespace for argument parsing in our notes. Update tooling team members.
Oh yeah, we were talking about a couple things before you got here. The member list on GitHub is outdated. So like Darcy and Joe like can't add labels to things, for example, because they're not technically on the tooling team.
Oh, we should fix that.
Yeah, and also then Chris is like the owner or the maintainer or whatever, and we should probably add someone else to that list.
Yeah, we'll reach out to Chris and see what he's saying.
And he might even be able to do it since he does have that role.
Yeah, I wonder if he's hopefully going to want to be engaged again at some point.
So, yeah.
Let's see here.
He recently left IBM, and I think he's still working on what is next, just FYI.
Oh.
Yeah. That probably means that he's in a transitional phase where the last thing you might want to hear about is tooling potentially.
Could go either way, really. You know?
Yeah. And did we talk about the Collab Summit as well already then?
Yeah, that also just kind of came up while we were chatting, while we were waiting for you.
Yeah, sorry about that again.
No, yeah, no problem. Yeah, we were just wondering if there was. It sounds like there's not going to be one at OpenJS World, but we were talking about maybe just doing. We could even just do something of our own around that time. We had we were going to do that roadmap meeting earlier in the year, and then we kind of decided, hey, we actually have like some good projects that we're working on right now. But hopefully sometime around that time frame, like June or July, we're maybe landing like argument parsing and some of that stuff. So it might be a good time to do that meeting then, sometime around the OpenJS World.
I agree. That makes sense to me. I think it's been exciting for me watching new people learn Node at my job right now, because I see them using some of the stuff we've built, like rimref recursive and McDerp and stuff. And I'm like, we're actually, my colleague found that stuff the other day. And I'm like, my colleague actually used, without me prompting him, used RM recursive the other day, the RM, and then I had to remove it because I'm like, well, that doesn't exist until Node 14. So you got to use, rimdir until then, but
not after that. And then
yeah,
it's a little. We made a bit of a mess of that one.
And I saw him pulling in SHU2. No, I saw him pulling in FS extra for the copy-r behavior. So I think that was a strong indicator, just watching someone use the system, that we probably picked some good tickets picked some good things for our next issues, I think.
Right. Hey, speaking of that kind of thing, I think we've maybe talked about this before, but I'll bring it up again. I was thinking it would be interesting to, like, we should add something to the Node, like ESLint package, so that, like, if you're running Node 14 and you import rimraf, it should tell you, like, hey, this is actually built in now. You don't need this anymore.
That's a good idea, and I think to a certain degree this exists. I've noticed if I change the engines field in my, it was telling me I couldn't use, I think, rimdir recursive for TypeScript until I switched my engine. Oh, sorry, this is TypeScript, not ESLint then. So TypeScript will catch that you're trying to use a version of Node that doesn't yet have those features in it, and someone must be updating those TypeScript bindings for Node on a pretty regular basis. I like the ESLint idea too, though. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I thought it just could be handy to push adoption of some of these things that we're doing now.
Wonder if we should be doing something in NPM though, to also be letting you know that you're pulling in potentially a module, especially with like the confusion here between the fact that, like, I don't know, crypto or like maybe other like libraries may not be, like, you're pulling down something that is now like native. I don't think we've fully blocked out. I could be wrong, but if you go to the registry, I'm not sure if we fully deprecated any package that potentially is now a native module in the registry itself. So it might be good that that we're doing something there. Like if you're installing a package that we know is now conflicting with like a native module.
Right.
Not conflict, but might be redundant.
Yeah,
Right.
it might be confusing. It like, right?
I think it would make sense if you did it. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Ray. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, ideally, well, we already have a system in place for deprecated packets, right? So ideally, the maintainer of the package marks the package as deprecated, and then they can leave a message, this is already part of core.
Right. That's tricky though too.
Appropriate thing.
What was that? Sorry.
That's like, if everybody's playing nice, then
Right.
that's the thing that happens.
Right. Well, it's a little bit tricky though too, right? Because like rimraf is largely implemented in Node now, but if you want the bin link, for example, you have to still use the package, right? So the package isn't totally deprecated, so it's a bit of a gray area.
Yeah, in that case, it still has a reason to leave, right? Like it might just be documented that it might be redundant parts of it, but
Right.
then the package definitely has a reason to still live.
Yeah.
That was part of the reason why I like the ESLint idea too, is because, like, you know, if you just had a dependency on rimraf, like that's fine. You're not gonna you're not going to see, maybe you're using the bin link and you just have a script that uses it. But if you actually like try to require from rimwrap in your code, then it could tell you like, hey, you actually don't need this.
That's smart.
Yeah, there's probably a few things we could do there. Like Ben, you were mentioning the TypeScript bindings, making sure those are current, and then adding something like to ESLint maybe, or to the ESLint node library.
NPM could check the engines field too, just to see like if you're on a newer version of it. That's what I think ESLint or TypeScript do, is they check the engines field. My only concern is I think when we reached out to James Halliday about McDerp originally, he was not, I mean, he wasn't the most supportive. He likes kind of he personally liked had the philosophical like of the many tiny modules, which a lot of folks grew up in the community, and this isn't a value judgment of that, but it might be kind of frustrating if James is doing an NPM install now and his own module is telling him that, oh, you should use the built-in one because we've started to pull more stuff into core. Maybe most people would just be happy that they got told given a message, but I'm just like,
McDerp is not the module, right? It's under FS, right?
Well, oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about if you like. Well, I mean, there's the McDerp module. There's the McDerp module, and then there's fs.mcderp, right?
Yeah, so that's one where it's like there wouldn't be anything confusing there, right? Like you're not going to require McDerp as the node, right? So whereas like what I think we were alluding to was we might be able to embrace this for like parsargs or other future packages, like that node prefix kind of like helps eliminate some confusion. But for anybody that's still like pulling in like these things, we could potentially NPM or other tooling could introduce warnings, right? So.
I think for the polyfills could be really interesting. Like if we had blessed polyfills that we'd done in the package org, where like for the first James Snell's one, or the one that's being done for parsargs, like NPM could even just have a map of those ones, and we would be like, hey, it looks like you were experimenting with our polyfill before it actually became part of Node. Why don't you just use the one that's built into Node? I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like that idea as well. It's a lot more clear cut in that case. Like you were using the polyfill, and now you're on a newer version. You don't need it anymore.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess we're pretty much out of time. Any last minute business, or anyone got any announcements or anything?
So I've been working for like 4 months to make Yargs async, which has been a pain in the neck, but I feel like it's almost there. So I'm pretty excited about Yargs v17.
Interesting.
I feel like it's been a really good exercise in just like code golf to try to make it work properly. It's completely synchronous until you do the first thing asynchronous, and then it's asynchronous. So it hasn't broken the contract too much with how Yargs used to work. But if you actively try to use async stuff, you now have a promise instead of parsed arguments. But then it applies the middleware and the handlers and the checks all in appropriate order, and they can all be async too. So you can have like async validation of your command line argument parser with like an async function that like does a database connection or something, and then as long as you await it, you just get arguments out the other side. So it's like, I don't know, I've maybe gone too far, but I'm excited about it.
Well, I had not an issue, but I had like an async handler. And then in my code that was calling Yargs, though, I wasn't awaiting Yargs, but it still worked. But then I kind of went down that rabbit hole too. I was like, wait, does this need to be, when I call Yargs parse or whatever, do I need to await that? And then, so I like the idea of that being more explicit, maybe.
That's the idea. Try Yargs at next, and it should be correct now. Like if you await Yargs, it will not resolve until your handler is resolved.
Yeah, okay. In my case, like my program was still working, but I did realize like, yeah, it's maybe not correct. Speaking of yards, also, I ran into an issue with yard 16 and Webpack. Something with your ES modules shimming broke that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
sorry.
me know how to fix. I don't use Webpack, so just if you have like 2 minutes, just help me figure out how to fix it, and I would be incredibly grateful.
The only reason I was using it with Webpack is because I was bundling a CLI with NCC, and that uses Webpack to do that. And it worked fine with yards 15, but then when I upgraded yards, my build broke.
I'd like to fix that, so if you
Sure,
can just give me a breaking situation, and I'll give it a try or something.
Yeah, sure.
Like, even if you can't fix it, like.
Sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, I can do that. All right. Well, have a good weekend, everyone.
Yeah, you as well.
Take care.